I'm just going to push the record button now. I believe we're live and recording, and this will be seen by other people. I don't know how many, probably at least one will be Jackie, who's the wonderful woman who has created this program and is looking to help others like us. Her target audience and her business is speakers, coaches, and consultants that want to get on more platforms and convert at a higher level. So this is only one aspect of that whole process that she does. This is one pillar of her 6-pillar process. I did that both in Canadian and American. Did you hear that? Process, and I went to process. That's for the variety of people who are going to be listening to this. So there's a lot of people that are great presenters, whether that be one-to-many or one-on-one. And this identifying what your core message is and being clear on it is significant for one and or to many. And a platform could be a one-on-one, like we're accustomed to in our own practices, but it could be when we're facilitating or if we're in front of an association. You could be a great speaker, yet when you get at the end of it, you get maybe a standing ovation and a round of applause and nothing else. As a consultant, as a business coach, that's not good enough. We need to develop a rapport with people, so much so that they trust us and they want to engage with us and they want some more stuff from us. So this isn't the whole process around that, but this is one key part of it. So if you don't have a clear core message of why you do what you do, be able to communicate to the audience that you're going after, you'll do a great presentation, be a great orator, but you won't convert anybody to take the next step with you. So just like in our stack, the first module is clarity. This is much the same, only specific to being a speaker presenter.
Okay.
Okay. So the first thing, in addition to that, what I might add is that there's a couple of roadblocks that are common that seem to get in the way. The consultant, coach, or speaker is too close to their message. They're trying to be all things to everyone. We've had that conversation already, right? Trying to get you going from the 1 to 150 million down to a smaller target. Not to say you couldn't serve all of those people, but that'd be like pushing a plow of dirt in a farm field, right? Without the plow. Make sense?
Yes.
And then not understanding how to articulate your message, which is partly why the core message clarity issue opportunity is significant. There's a couple of steps we're going to go through. I'm going to ask you half a dozen questions, and we're going to take some notes, both of us, this recording. You can have a copy of this recording too if you feel like you would like to have that. And the intention is to drive down to why you do what you do. That's really the big thing. So there's a number of questions I want to get asking you. So it's probably 60 minutes, maybe 90 minutes of time today that we're going to invest in this process. You okay with that?
Yes.
Excellent. Before I ask the serious questions, because they're all serious, what's the best thing that's happened to you since the last time I spoke with you?
Well, it's been a jam-packed time. I guess the best thing. Now, are you asking on a personal level or on a business level?
You get to decide.
Okay. Well, I guess the biggest personal thing is that my aunt, who had to have emergency open heart surgery for 5 vessels that were several of which were 99 to 100% blocked, was literally minute to minute on her deathbed, and yesterday she turned a corner and she is now awake and able to speak a few words. So that's been the biggest win and has frankly overshadowed everything in my week.
Okay. That's the important sort of thing, and that's great news to hear that the family member is in better shape than she was just a little bit ago. Is there something business-wise? Just let's do both.
Okay, so on the business side, I did make a connection and have been invited actually to speak for a community event that's coming up next week. It is a small segment. It's a 15-minute segment, but I'm really excited about it, and that's really huge for me.
Cool. That's both are great news. One is more important than the other because as we do in our diamond mapping, the health and fitness is at the bottom, foundational. Without that, the rest don't matter, right? So thank you for sharing both of those. I'm excited for your business side as well in terms of having something like that coming out of the recertification and moving on with that momentum. That's really good for you. So you've probably been busy doing all of the other things because of the certification process you've already gone through.
Yes.
And then the follow-up sessions, right? There's a lot of work there.
There is.
Now that you've had a second chance to go through it, what have you noticed in yourself or in the content from the first time?
Well, first, the thing that I noticed was some of the things that I had difficulty with before I understood better this time. But to encapsulate that with understanding on my part, one of the things about me that is something, it's part of my core, is if I encounter something that I don't understand, I've always been that one person that I will understand it. I won't allow it to be this enigma. And so when I got back the first time after, honestly, after the situation that was going on in my life at the time had gotten past, I started to dig through those items that I had trouble with.
Okay.
So I had already begun that, going down the pathway of understanding it better. But then when I went back this second time, and I don't know if it was because of those actions that I took to further understand it, or just that having touched it so many times in the interim, it was like a thump on the head, like, duh, I mean, why was that so hard the first time? It makes total sense now. So.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So being that if you don't understand something, you're the type of person that will dig into it until you understand it and get understanding. I see that as a huge pillar of strength or value that you bring to the clients who are smart enough to hire you. So that's a good thing.
Thank you.
Do you know who your ideal target audience is? Since the last time we spoke, we did touch on that a little bit. Have you narrowed it down?
I have narrowed it down, yes, to brick and mortar healthcare small businesses, and specifically in dental, physical therapy, the therapies, frankly, plus dental and veterinary medicine. So it is dental, veterinary medicine, the physical therapies, speech therapies, massage therapists, chiropractors, holistic medicine. So that's the umbrella that I'm just frankly calling it brick and mortar healthcare.
Okay. So what are some of the challenges you feel that that audience would have?
Well, the biggest that they run into is team, things like staff retention, finding staff that can do what they need them to do, that has the beginning, foundation of knowledge in order to for them to have an immediate resource. So that is difficult for them. Keeping them once they have them so that they don't run away as soon as they get trained is another thing. The also just client acquisition, being able to get them in the first place. And then also, for instance, the veterinary medicine and the dental medicine, the things that they run into are the returning for just routine care, like in dental medicine, their hygienic work, and in veterinary medicine is the getting them to come back for their routine shots for their animals, their routine checkups and things. So that's their big thing, is getting them in the first place and then returning for more than just critical or sick issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is time is a big one, because these are smaller businesses generally running into the situation where the owner is down in the business and having less time to work on their business. They're in huge time crunches with living, frankly. And then as far as the money, they feel that they're not doing as well as they thought they would be at the time, with as much time as they are in their business. And all of those things are kind of interconnected.
Okay, if I'm quiet, I'm just writing notes. If you were to pick, ideally, out of the ones that you've listed here, you've talked about the therapies, dental, veterinary, and physical therapy. Those are they're under the same umbrella. I totally get that. One of them is human, the other one is four-legged. So that differentiates them a little bit in terms of the market. Is there one or two in there that would be even more ideal than those four? This is fantastic that you've gone from the broader scope that we talked about a few weeks ago, 1 to 150 million, and then the smaller number of people. Now you've narrowed it down to actually the brick and mortar aspect and which homes that you're going to be visiting in terms of the different market segments or verticals. If you were to narrow it down even more, how could you do that?
It would be the ones that really impact me on a central level, on a core level, and those are going to be the therapies. As a registered nurse that has seen the impact of health or absence of health on patients, and having had a husband who lived in pain for so long, the things that are closest to my heart, frankly, are the therapies. Mm-hmm. The physical therapy, the massage therapy. I actually had an event with a dentist that I went to where he knocked my jaw out of place. First time I had ever had that happen. I've had a lot of pain in my life, but that was unbearable pain. And I went to so many people to try to help me. It was absolutely miserable. I get chills thinking about it. It was that awful. And I ended up going to two people that helped me. One was a massage therapist, and one was a holistic medicine individual. And they they fixed it. They not only had the knowledge of why it had happened, why the pain was so much more severe than I ever thought it could be, but how to get it back to where I could immediately start feeling some relief without medicine, without pills, which was huge for me. And so that's closest to my heart. If I had to choose from all of those, a more focused segment, I would go to chiropractors, massage therapists, physical therapists, and holistic medicine.
Did you feel anything when you shared that story?
Oh, yeah.
Versus what you were telling me, the logical stuff you'd like to do?
Yes, chill bumps all the way to my toes.
I saw that. I felt that. That's what I want you to focus in on. That's what's going to drive you in your business. That's what's going to resonate with your audience. Jackie, she's a wonderful young lady. She's got some great phraseologies. And one of them is, I have it written down because I haven't memorized it yet. I shouldn't. It's not that difficult. But basically what she does is compresses time. And that's kind of what I've been doing for the last 11 years or so in my own practice. But in able to compress time, one of the things you're able to do is to take what you do when you get to the point of offer, which we're not going to do today. Because of what you've talked about here, the emotional connection you had there that I felt, that's going to be transferable to the audience that's there that you're speaking to. But that's one-on-one or one-to-many. And in the one-to-many, we're not going to connect with probably all of them. But if we got 10, 20, on the high side, 30% of the people coming to you to take you up on your offer, whatever that is, call to action, that could be, well, we don't even need to talk about that. But you will be on the stage and you want to have some sort of end result that you want them to take. That's why you're on the stage. I shouldn't call it stage, sorry, Jackie, platform. That's why I have a platform to be in front of people, right?
Yes.
It might be on a platform that looks like a stage, but it's not a stage, right, Jackie?
Because you can fall off a stage.
That's right. But a platform can be anything. You could be at the same level as your audience. You could be elevated. It doesn't really matter. The point is positioning. So in front of the room, you want to engage people. You got into coaching because you want to make a difference. And it's hard to make a difference from a logical mindset. When you started going down that path about physical and massage therapists that helped you because of a dentist that knocked your jaw out, that's a hell of a story to share to people. Now, you're not suggesting that all dentists knock your jaw out and all dentists are bad. That's not what you're talking about. What you're talking about is because of your background, you have a passion. You have a reason that people should connect with you and take up your offer, whatever that ends up being, right? So I want you to, I really like to hear you talk more about that dentist jaw out experience and what happened with the people that you met that helped you get past that with no meds, and bring that into your core message.
Okay.
Because when you talked about that transferred through digital means. I felt it. I saw it. It was awesome.
Okay.
And if you think about that group versus the dental veterinarian professionals, I felt that when you spoke about the physical therapist and the massage therapist, there was a deeper emotional attachment to that audience for you to speak to and help and serve. Would that be?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. And what would they gain from your experience?
I think a connection, because I am personally invested as well as logically invested.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as far as the dental, I'm logically invested because everybody needs a dentist at one time or another.
Mm-hmm.
And dentists have issues that they need assistance with, or they have frustrations that they need assistance with. However, the therapies, like we were talking about,
yeah,
that's where my connection is. And and it opened a thought. that just opened a thought. Remember, we were talking about wins a little while ago. Well, I just realized I had another win. In the holistic area, there is a doctor that I have known for years, and I connected with her this last week. She is a holistic doctor and is just, on top of that, a phenomenal individual. She is an older woman, and the coolest thing about her, which always makes me giggle a little bit, is she has purple hair.
Purple hair?
Purple hair. I absolutely love it, because this is the way I describe her. She lives out loud.
Okay.
And I love that about her. And that's what speaks to me about the whole group of holistic medicine and therapies is that they all have that connection, not only with the physical side of the patient, but with the spiritual side of the patient.
Okay,
and
cool.
As a nurse, I had to take that into account when I was taking care of patients, is that they're not just a name in a bed. They are a spiritual, physical being, and they have all sorts of issues, that not just the physical ones that you can see.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I watched a TEDx talk last night. I'll send it to you. It's about what you're talking about, sort of, kind of. I think you'd enjoy it. It's about 18 minutes long.
Okay.
About how the power of the mind and how we have the ability to do what you've just said there. So it could help support you in your mission, give you a pat on the back. You're on the right path. Not that you didn't know that already, but it's always kind of good to have evidentiary material available to share with your audience, right?
Yes.
I did save that one because it impressed me enough. I thought, well, I probably want to watch that or share it with somebody down the road. Okay, cool. So can you see the difference from where you were before, when we've talked about who it is your audience was, and now who you've narrowed it down to? Do you see or feel a difference around that yet?
Well, I do. A couple of differences. The first one is that before I focused it was so huge that it was insurmountable.
Yeah.
It was difficult to choose a direction because there were just so many options. And I found myself in a not a procrastination loop, although that's what it felt like. It wasn't that I was procrastinating. I was making effort, I was taking action, but it was getting me nowhere because there was so much. Once I focused and was doing the exact same actions that I was doing for the bigger group, I started to have traction, and evidenced by that connection with the holistic doctor who remembers me from 20 years ago, which was pretty cool. And then the opportunity to speak at that engagement for that's coming up next week. So all of that came from doing the exact same things, and that's kind of was the big aha or eye opener for me, is that I felt like I was pulling a giant boulder up a mountain, and then when I focused, the boulder became a rock.
So it got smaller.
There. Yeah, still there, still something that takes effort, but it's moving now. And so that was a big, huge thing for me.
Could you see how that would parlay into what you bring to the table? See yourself at the front of the room speaking to one-to-many and just sharing that bit of a story?
Yes, because you can take it from a logical to a visual. And visual, most adults are really good with the visual side of learning.
Yes. And do we think in words or pictures?
Pictures.
Yeah. So the pictures are come to life with the stories that we tell. And you talking about how you've had some overwhelm. You've had the boulder was massive, it's hard, and it turned it into a rock. So if you were on stage telling that story and painting those pictures, you would probably connect with the audience better, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Because they've got their own boulders and their own, but maybe they haven't turned it into a rock yet. And that's what you can help them do. So as you're thinking about what you're going to do as a speaker, coach, consultant, telling your story and giving them those different core messages, different core stories to support your core message. That's why Jackie insists that out of the 6 pillars that she has in her offering, this one is the foundational piece. Core message clarity.
Okay.
Because if you're not clear on what you're saying, and you don't have, you being, it's a royal you, I'm not pointing fingers at you, it's me as well. When we're speaking to and addressing somebody, if we don't have that spelt out and comfortable, second nature like for us, then there's going to be a fuzzy understanding with people that we're speaking to. And what happens with fuzzy understanding?
Confusion and not getting the message.
And then they don't become a client, right?
Right.
As Brian Tracy says, fuzzy understanding creates no forward momentum. They'll stay where they are because that they already know. We could even look at people who are in a bad relationship, women who are hanging out with a guy that abuses them. And they'll hang in there because the devil they know versus the one they don't. And if they do happen to get out of it, they tend to migrate to somebody who's similar because that's where their head's at. Right?
Right.
I love the boulder to the rock. Maybe there's one step further you could take it. You don't have to. This is just popping into my head. And that is from the boulder to the rock to the, maybe the pebble. It's a little bit smaller than the rock. And maybe from the pebble to you're on the beach with all the little pecks of sand. On the beach, most people see the beach as a place that they're trying to get to or like to spend more time. Not everybody, but some people. Yeah. You don't have to add that to your story, but I'm putting in the video so that you can have it for future reference.
Okay.
And if anything makes sense, be sure to make sure you write it down because we don't want any of these ideas that you come up with to vaporize. I really do want you to get huge benefit out of this time this morning. So now I'm more clear on who your target audience is, and I felt a connection that was just wonderful. It's going to be fabulous when you put this all together. What do you think the problem is that your audience is having?
Well, I think it's connecting with their clients because a lot of people don't understand that holistic medicine can make such a difference. I didn't have that understanding. And what I discovered when I was going through my health event was that, I tried going to, an urgent care, and I tried going the direction of normal medicine, and all I got was, let's take another $500 test and come up with the exact same answer. And then what we can do is give you this pill and you'll still hurt and we can't do anything about it, but here's the pill. And so my understanding wasn't there that they could help me. The only way I got there, frankly, was in one of the urgent cares that I went to, the medical assistant that was in there, and she felt so awful that I was in so much pain. And she said, you know what? I have an aunt who specializes, she's a physical therapist, and she specializes in TMJ, which I'm sure you know is the joint in the jaw. And she said, would you be offended if I gave you that? She said, I can, of course, do that as a medical professional. It would have to come from the doctor, but I can tell you that my aunt is amazing. And I said, oh my God, anything, anything. She gave me that name and phone number, and I called that woman, and my life changed. I did not have that understanding, and I consider myself a learned medical professional. So I think that their biggest disconnect with the public is that the public does not understand the impact that they can bring to their lives. So I think that's their biggest issue is not necessarily marketing, but education as to what impact they can bring to people.
I'm going to challenge you on that.
Okay.
You said education, not so much. Education more. Read my own notes. Education more, not so much marketing. So my challenge there is, could marketing be the education vehicle?
It could. But what generally I've been seeing, I think it's an inroad for me. Because what I've generally been seeing lately, in the last week or so when I finally figured this out, was by looking at their marketing, they are not putting in that education as a point of contact or a point of entry.
Mm-hmm.
And so the person out there in the world basically already has to have that understanding for their marketing to do any good. The marketing also is buried. It's not out there. It's not grabby, you know. So yes, it could be a vehicle, but there are other ones as well.
What are the other ones?
Well, like for instance, the speaking event that I have is specifically for education of community health. And it is, the whole thing in a nutshell is, has brought chiropractors and just a few of the more generalized holistic type medicines in to get to be able to speak to not speak to gain understanding on how they can how they can get kind of beyond the quagmire that they're in, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a market, it's a non-marketing, it's a networking type of opportunity where these types of businesses and other businesses, it's not just holistic medicine that's going to be there. It's a community event. So it's kind of everybody, but it's specifically this space of time is for this group to be able to brainstorm, basically, is what it is. It's kind of a mastermind group.
Okay. So I know one of the activities you're working on to grow your business is to be seen as a speaker presenter, to be on a variety of different platforms, right?
Yes.
What does that look like?
Well, to me, it looks like, because at heart, I am an educator. It looks like workshops, opportunities to bring people together to increase their knowledge, increase their mindfulness, and to show them that there are roads to wherever they need to get.
Okay. And in an ideal situation, what would be in the, just describe an ideal one. You're on the platform and you have an audience. What would that look like?
Are you talking about size?
It's your, yeah, whatever. I don't want to, yeah, it's what you're thinking. I'm not trying to put my thoughts in your head.
I would say anywhere from a smaller one, like 10 people, all the way up to 250 initially, with the plan for that to increase into the above 500 and above 1,000 eventually. It would include a digital presence.
How do you mean?
Being able to have virtual speaking engagements.
Okay. Like a webinar or
Yes.
live streams, those kind of things?
Yes.
Okay. How frequently would you, in an ideal world, would you like to do these?
Weekly.
Okay. And what would you like to have as an outcome from these events?
Peace of mind, financially as well as personally.
What about for those that are investing their time and maybe some money with you?
To see them have that moment of understanding that it can impact them. So value, transfer of value.
It's like you read my mind. Because I'm writing these, I should write them in your words, but I'm not ready to, up until now, I haven't been a very good transcriber. So as you're saying that, I got audience hyphen gets the value. It's kind of what you said, wasn't it?
Yeah, transfer of value.
Cool. So if you were to do all of that, and like you get on a weekly platform anywhere between 10 to 1,000 plus, I just stretched it for you. I did put the other ones down there, but let's stretch it. 1,000 plus, you can grow into that, or you could probably do that tomorrow. If somebody gave you the opportunity, I think you would jump on it and do it, right?
Yes.
So I'm thinking, why go from 10 to 250 and then maybe a few more? I'm just going 10 or 1,000 plus. But you don't have to. I'm just putting it out there.
Oh, yeah.
A digital presence, virtual webinars, live stream kind of things. These would be live as well. So it'll be live and digital events on a weekly basis. The outcome that you're looking for is to have peace of mind from a personal side point of view as well as a financial viewpoint. And the audience gets the value transfer. They understand how you are bringing some value to them that will help them move their boulders to pebbles.
Yes.
Faster than if they didn't work with you.
Right.
I added that a little bit.
I like that.
Did you write it down?
I did write that.
Awesome. Don't want them to vaporize. Okay, so now I'm going to backtrack to, I started into the 6 questions. You wouldn't have known that because you don't know what they are, but I did. So now I'm going to backtrack into the 6 questions that really help bring out the clarity of your core message. The first one, which I jumped into and you started to answer, was what are the challenges of getting, and you said it was getting their message to be understood and the impact that is out there that people don't get. And you had a story around that. So remember the story you had was about your experience and how you went from TLC. Did I get that right? I know what you mean. I've met somebody who's actually a practitioner who's helped dentists. Like, this is an aside. I've heard a story 2 years ago from a lady who is a holistic practitioner of I can't think of her discipline at the Bowen method. And in the Bowen method is they treat the fascia of the nerve.
Yeah.
And what she's learned in that process of meeting some of the people that she's worked with and helped is there's a lot of dentists extracting molars and wisdom teeth prematurely, and they shouldn't. And she talked about a case of twins, and one had the dental work done and the other one didn't, and at a younger age. And as they matured and grew, the differences in the face outline were dramatic. One was a handsome fella and the other was not so handsome because of the way his jaw grew, because he didn't have the teeth in there to get the bones to grow the way the genetics and his DNA said they were supposed to be.
Right.
Dentistry suggested they need to take these out because of other reasons. So they were misinformed. It was best information at the time. So that's where I heard about the TLC was from her, is that a dentist who practices that, or a therapist who practices that, can help with the best health with that, with different devices that they use and keeping the teeth in there. So instead of taking the teeth out, they actually adjust the jaw by putting a device in the mouth that pushes the jaw out.
Mm-hmm.
What do they call those things? There's a name for it. Not a brace. It's
no, but I know what you're talking about.
Okay. Anyway, so there's a lot of really good stories out there, and
Retainer. It's
that's a retainer. Yeah. So it helped the jaw and his face others grow properly. It was kind of a side added value that you didn't even ask for. But see the stories that come out of our own lives?
Really? Yeah.
So one of the actions I will have you consider doing is, as you're thinking about your life and you're talking to people and stories pop up, and they will, and you may not remember them, or you might. I find that I'll get on a tangent talking to somebody and these stories pop up. I haven't thought about that particular story for at least 2 years from when I heard it when I was in Vegas at a conference. And just be you and I talking, that story came up. So that may or may not be something that I talk about later in my own coaching practice. But if I don't write them down, I'll never talk about them. So just, if there's something that resonates in your life experience, just give it a title or some hook that'll take you back to be there, so that you can actually start writing and thinking about and talking about those in your practice, right? Because people buy our stories. They buy how we can help transform them. They don't buy a coach. Nobody wakes up in the middle of the night and says, geez, I need a
coach.
But they do wake up with, oh, my jaw's hurting. How do I? Well, you're not going to help them directly with their jaw hurting. You're going to help people who are experts in that, to help those people that have a sore jaw find them, right?
Yes.
And then you're going to help your clients be really effective at running a business more effectively, more efficiently, and dealing with the things you did talk about, the time, the team, and the financial side of things. But first we have to meet them where they are. So the list of challenges that we talked about, I went over that. Getting their message to be understood, having an impact, the education versus marketing mindset, and what other challenges would the audience have? Your ideal audience target.
Well, because they are smaller businesses, the challenge they would have is paying the price for a coach. So that's the reason that I am investigating more, not the one-on-one coaching, although it's still something I'm utilizing, but more the group coaching, because I can do that in such a way that it could get it to the pricing that they could afford, and be a vehicle for me to do what's closest to my core and bring value to a group of business owners that I think bring more to our healthcare world. Okay. There are a lot of big dollar hospitals and such, but my tie in is to these people who have a more impactful connection, or not connection, a more impactful benefit than people realize that they could have.
So other than the money being a challenge, as a deeper dive into the challenge, what would the issue they would have? What else might there be?
For them individually.
So you were thinking the ideal audience that you're going to be speaking to, whether it's from a platform or a workshop or wherever, other than the money, what other challenges do you see they have?
They don't have a collective voice, or at least their collective voice is not as strong as mainstream healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
So I, as is true in all things, together we are stronger. They are fighting their battles individually, and not having that collective voice, or as strong, because there are some out there, but not having a strong collective voice keeps them at the lower spectrum of their potential. So that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm hoping this thing that's coming up next week is not only for my community, it's bringing them to the forefront, at least for next week. And I think it will be on that. This mastermind group that is very heavy on the holistic side is a new thing, very new for my community. So I'm really glad I found it. So I've kind of gone down a rabbit trail on that one. Their issues that they face are still they're those same things. They're not being known in the community. People go to ERs and such because they are what is that word? They're viewed as hype.
Woo-woo.
Yes. And so having that transition from that to this is real, and it's going back really into the healing arts, when healing was an art, where now it's logistical. This holistic medicine is a healing art, frankly.
Okay, so now we're going down the path I think I was trying to get you down to. I didn't know where it was going, but it's sounding to me like it is. How's it feeling to you?
Clearer.
Because we're not talking money. We're looking at what are the real underpinning challenges that your ideal audience is facing. And what I'm hearing there is mainstream medicine, which is
hospitals and
all that stuff, and revenue driven in your country for sure. Not so much in Canada, but it is somewhat. But we're more socialistic that way, because we do have I don't have to bring my credit card every time I go to the doctor. I have most of that stuff covered. Not everything is. So it's a different market share. So the woo-woo, the hype, the witchcraft, that was my word. You don't have to use that, but it helps me think about what's going on here. It's like the chiropractors were fighting in the early days. They were wacko, and psychologists or psychiatrists were wacko, right? And so the holistic community has a bit of a boulder of their own, using your vernacular, of educating those people that are preconditioned to think that MDs are the end all to all ends. And as you've learned, that's not necessarily the case. pills on their own are not the end all to all ends, right? There's a fellow by the doctor, name is Dr. Joe Dispenza. Are you familiar with his work?
No.
He's out of the northwest part of the U.S. He was a chiropractor first, a triathlete. As a triathlete, he had an accident, got hit by a vehicle, broke his back, and he tells you where. I can't remember if it was C1 or L1 or I don't know, but he died. And the neurosurgeons had him in the hospital in a neck brace where his head couldn't move. And so I believe he was suspended, hanging, not lying down. And he declined the the MD's approach. They wanted to put in the rods in the back. And once you've done that, then your back is
fused.
Yeah. And there's no opportunity to heal yourself with the power of the mind. So being a chiropractor, he said the power that built the body can heal the body. So he bought into that. So he never had the operation. And I think it was 12 weeks. 12 weeks later, he walked out of the hospital. That's the start of his story.
Yeah.
So what kind of stories do you have? You can't tell, you can share that one if you want, once you've internalized it, but it's not really about that. It's more about what are the stories that you have like that from your own, like you've shared one already with your experience with the jaw, went to a dentist, had somebody treat it, and it was like incredible. So these people are faced with the woo-woo, the hype, the witchcraft, the non-believing, the precondition to the MD side. So aren't those some of the challenges that they get to overcome?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So in your stories and in your core value or core message clarity segment is what we're talking about today. What are the things that would help that audience deal with the woo-woo hype and witchcraft so that they are educating the non-believers or the uncertain people or the resistors? I mean, the ones that already like them, that's not as important. But the ones that have uncertainty, fuzzy understanding, like we talked about before, how were you, or now I'm putting words in your mouth, is that something that you're looking at to help them communicate their message?
It's something that would go on my list of gaining more knowledge and understanding about.
Okay. Because if you can, so this might be one of the action items for you from today, is to dig in to really find out what are the real challenges they're facing, not the surfacey ones that you're aware of, but what are the real challenges, and how do you think you could do that?
Talk to more of them and gain more understanding as to what they face. I can think of one now. It's my best friend. Suffered for years with pain,
Mm-hmm.
and went to doctor after doctor, and they wanted to do surgery on her back. And because they were just adamant that her problem was in her back, she refused the surgery because, like you said, once you do surgery on the back, you've done something pretty big, because that's the largest grouping of joints in your entire body.
Mm.
And affecting one affects the two on each side, top and bottom of that joint. And each vertebral body has two joints. So you're impacting, in essence, by impacting one, you've impacted six. So that's big. So anyways, she had this horrible, horrible pain. She went to this, remember I told you about the holistic doctor that I made this that reconnected with after 20 years. She went to her and as a last resort, because she didn't want to have surgery. Right. She was desperate. She went to her and said, I don't know what's going on. I've got this horrible pain. I've gotten where I can't even walk. I'm in my 40s and I'm about to have to go to a cane. She said, my back gives me problem. My feet gives me problem. I don't know what's going on. So this holistic doctor laid her down and did her normal thing. When she got through, and I won't go into all the things that she did to get to the end result because that would take a long time. But at the very end of it, she told her, your problem is not your back. Your problem is not your ankle or your feet. Your problem is your knee. And she told her exactly where on the knee that her problem was. She took that information and then started teaching her things that she could do to help that. And within 6 weeks, she was walking without pain.
Wow.
And had been dealing with this for years. Again, with no medicine and no pills. So she not only didn't have to have the surgery, she didn't have to go on long-term pain medicine. And now she's walking with no issues whatsoever, because she continues those healthful things that she learned from this holistic medicine provider that made such a huge difference in her life, and still does. Now she's in her 50s and she's still enjoying not having that pain, where now if she had not done that, she likely not only would have been using a cane, but most likely would have had back surgery by this point.
And irreversible after that point, right?
Yes.
So if you think that the woo-woo and the hype and the witchcraft and is part of the issues that they're facing is the real challenge.
Yeah.
What causes that to be the case?
Part of it is while insurance in the United States will cover some holistic medicine, like therapies, it has difficulty. You have to jump through a whole lot of hoops for them to cover holistic doctors. They'll cover the physical therapists and the massage therapists and that to a degree, but you really, really have to go to a lot more depth with proving yourself and the care as a holistic doctor. And so I think that that's one of the things is the money impact, because if you go to mainstream medicine, insurances are going to question it less, and so they're going to pay it more easily. So less stress on that impact if you don't go to a holistic provider. And so there's the money impact. Then the just the knowledge that woo-woo, like you were saying, a lot of people won't even take the time to discover if it might work unless they reach the point that I did, which was the last thing I can possibly try.
Mm.
And then to find, well, of course it was the thing that worked. It was the last thing I tried, but that's where, unfortunately, it ends up being, is that they can't get what they need somewhere else, and so they try this, even though it is in the public's view something that probably won't work. But you're at the end of your rope, so might as well try one more thing.
Right. And the dollar psychology and the dollar around the psychology, or the psychology around the dollar pulls people or keeps people in the MD world.
Yes.
In your country. It does here too. Although there's more and more, not everything's covered under our healthcare plan here. Like, for example, physiotherapy isn't covered at all. It's $100 initial visit and $80 per after that. And if you don't have insurance in place, then you're on the hook for that personally. And I can see how that would be an impact for some patients, clients, to live with the pain versus and take a pill versus pills that can write off.
Yeah.
Whereas physiotherapy and other modalities are not supported unless you have additional insurance, because we don't have everything covered up here. Okay, cool. So as you're thinking of all these components here, these are the things that will become part of your message when you're in front of a group of people, whether it's 1 minute long, 3 minutes long, 5 minutes long, or your signature talk, which could be 15 minutes to a 3-day workshop. but that's another story. But having the core message clear, your core message of why you do what you do, which we're moving towards, will penetrate and support you and the audience you speak to, whether they're the physiotherapist, a massage therapist, or any other therapist. Just to change it, just like you listen to Rich Scott's, right? And how he even said the same thing. The language changes a little bit, but your signature speech and your stories that support it are the core are the same. But just the labels, like if you're, for example, the real obvious one that you brought up would be veterinarian versus dental. There's some similarities, but you don't talk about your furry paw friends with dentists if you're the business coach.
Right.
And you don't talk about oral hygiene. Well, actually you would with a dog, so that's not a very good example, Phil, but you get the gist of what I'm saying, right? You're not going to put a retainer on a dog, whereas you might do that, or you wouldn't send your dog likely to an orthodontist, whereas you would take your kids there, right?
Right.
So the language is different, but your message is still the same, the core message, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So thinking back to the list of the challenges that you believe that they have, identifying what the real challenges are and the cause behind all of that, how did you come to know that? I think you answered this without me asking that question, but I'll let you answer it again, if you will. So how did you come to know these things?
Personal experience, frankly,
Uh-huh.
from my own and from people that I know that have lived it.
Yeah, and the one personal experience is you shared earlier in the call is the dentist who misaligned your jaw.
Yep.
And the pain of that for you, and then you finding a solution to it and how you got there. And as a result of it was, oh my gosh, it's so much better, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
How quickly were you out of pain once you had that person?
Well, it took weeks, but there was an immediate difference. After the first session, there was an immediate difference. It wasn't gone, but it was where it was, the pain was so horrible. It felt like someone was stabbing me repeatedly with a long knife through the side of my jaw. Just on it, and it was, frankly, it was with the beat of my pulse. So every time my heart beat, this horrible pain would shoot through, and I couldn't open or close my mouth. It was locked. And so I had trouble talking. Speech hurt, everything hurt. And just imagine what a sneeze did.
Oh gosh.
It was absolutely miserable. Immediately, and also it was like a rock. It was just touching it. You could visibly see that my jaw was offset to the right. My ear was even sticking out straight. I mean, it totally changed the plateau of my face, the look of me, and it was absolutely horrible. Immediately after that first session, while it was still horrible pain, it had turned from that stabbing horrible to just a continuous horrible ache. But it was no longer felt like someone was standing there pounding the side of my face with a 10-inch knife. So I felt an immediate difference. It didn't take the pain away it was an additional 6 weeks before the pain went away. But there was hope that it would go away where there wasn't before. Yeah,
all the other ones there was no change.
No change at all. Worse, it would get worse because of all the manipulation. And the first thing she did was, well, the first thing we need to do is not manipulate this. We need to work on the muscles around it. Because what she described was that all of the muscles were in You go into fight or flight mode.
Mm-hmm.
All the muscles from the back of my neck to the front of my face were in flight.
They're stressed out.
Trying to get away. So everything was stretching away from the pain, causing everything to be inflamed.
Right.
So, she was just she just worked on those muscles, and just to start getting those muscles to just try to relax, that's what made the difference. And nobody else was trying that. And that's the holistic side. You work with what the body gives you rather than an external. So they work with internal sources rather than external sources. And I think that's the part that really spoke to me, was when she said, your body's trying to heal you. All we have to do is tap into that. The body's trying to get away from the pain. All we have to do is help it. And that was what spoke to me, and that's what has made such an impact on my life, frankly. Because it opened my mind. From that point forward, my mind was opened like a door.
What kind of door?
What kind of door? There's one of those French doors that opens outward.
It was a big, massive door.
Massive door. Yeah.
Versus like a little porthole door on a submarine. The reason I'm asking that, could you imagine when you're on stage and you open up these double doors, massive doors, and through that, your face just lit up with, it's like you were revitalized, right? So you're going to transfer that to your audience. They're going to want to get to know you. I've got to talk to Marsha. I don't have a problem with my jaw, but my back or my toe or I need to get to more patients, right? That's really who we're targeting. So I was going to you were going to be the practitioner. I messed up. You're going to have the audience leaning into it saying, I have to, even though you and I know that's not proper language. They don't know that yet, right? I have to talk to Marsha. I've got to find out how I can get more people like her. How can I work with or go beyond the limitations of the MD side of medicine versus the holistic side? How can I do that? I got to talk to Marsha, right? That's where we want this to go.
Yeah.
Not like you're taking a square peg and pounding in the round hole. This whole process is to help you get a square peg in a square hole. Versus doing, you said when we reconvened and did your CPR that you were looking at anywhere from 1 to 150 million. And I asked you to reconsider that, which you've done fabulously, by the way. And as of today, you've narrowed the scope even more, I think. What do you think?
Oh, I definitely have. And it's made it more where it's something I can wrap my brain around.
So you could probably make a list of those two communities that you talked about and start reaching out and asking them and confirming. Like, you have a hypothesis. You've told me some things you believe to be true. Now you can reach out and have a conversation. And one of the things I've learned about the holistic side of health is they don't like selling. Just like Rich said, they don't like marketing. That's the language they don't like. So we don't use those words, but we're still going to do the same thing. So from my opinion, based on my years of doing this, education is marketing and marketing is education. We just don't say marketing to these people.
Exactly.
We might say advertising because they're okay with that, but we won't necessarily say marketing, but we'll use education-based marketing and don't talk about marketing. Meet them where they're at, right? We're there to help solve a problem for them.
Right.
Because I don't know if you noticed when you were talking about education and marketing, I paused and I held my opinion. Now I'm expressing it. Because they don't like to sell stuff, mostly, right?
Right.
Some are okay with it. I know of an ND, a naturopath, and he said in his training that they were actually okay with selling because they recognize selling is the communication of an idea, and they need to sell their ideas to their patients and the people that they're in. So one of the things he's done in his practice is he's actually gone out to the MD world in his local marketplace, pounded on the door. Hi, I'm an ND. I don't do what you do, and I don't fix this, and I don't do that, but I'm really good at supporting after, if the leg breaks, I'm there. I don't do emergency stuff, but I can help treat and have some fabulous results with people. So, or pre-surgeries, for example, he was talking about a pediatric situation, a young kid that had tonsillitis of some sort, and they were going to take the tonsils out. And he looked at it and he said, no, you don't need to do that yet. Let's try this. And he used his approach, still have the tonsils, right? So you don't have to always. And he's not against MDs because there is a role for them, absolutely, right? But it's educating people. So he went after the medical community support and aligned and became an ally with them, as well as did educational pieces for the general populace, the people that were looking for healthcare help but didn't know what he did. So he was an educator. So he didn't market, but he did market. He marketed really well. There's a story that Jack Canfield talks about in one of his books about a chiropractor who went into an area in California where he would like to have opened up a practice and live. And he went and talked to the other chiropractors. Well, they came from a mindset of scarcity, felt there was no room for any more competition. And so they said, no, you shouldn't come here. There's not enough patients, yada, yada, yada. So he said, okay, thank you. So he went door knocking for months, and he did information gathering and found out when would you want to practice open if you were to do it. How have you been to one? Have you not been to? Where would you like it to be situated? All that kind of stuff he needed to know. So he opened it up and he said, oh, by the way, if when I open up, would you like an invitation to the open house? And they went, yeah, sure, okay. So he did like 12,000 doors or something. And when he opened up his practice, he was financially buoyant almost immediately because he already educated people by his door knocking marketing. That's still marketing, but he was educating, right? And he was successful in the marketplace where allegedly there was no room for another chiropractor. So you can help these people do the same thing and get the message out because you've had real life experience, the job, your own, and other people you've seen in your own MD side of your profession, because that's the side your strength's in, right? It's not that you're against it. Now you're more open to other options, and you're here to help
Exactly.
as a business consultant, as a business coach, now as a speaker. Have I summed you up pretty okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I think we've done 4 questions. The 5th one was, what did you do to overcome this? Well, you've told me what you've done to overcome it is the personal experience. So I'm not going to beat the crap out of that one. So I think you've answered the question number 5 already. What did you do to overcome this? And I would say it's what you've expressed to me. You found other health care options and got it sorted. And you've just provided testimony as to, it took weeks, but there was an immediate improvement. And compared to the other modalities, which cause more pain, this actually moved you the other way. And you actually, within 6 weeks, had a healthy face, healthy jaw, no pain.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
So if you were thinking about this ideal audience, the one you just described to me, what would you want the audience that you're thinking of, what would their next step action item be if you were in front of them?
Not really sure what you're asking. Are you talking about next step as in working with me as a coach?
Yes.
It would be to maybe one of 2 things, either to gain their interest in one-on-one coaching or interest in joining a group coaching opportunity.
Okay, that's logical. So let's think, you've got an event coming up next week.
Yes.
You're going to be talking for how long?
15 minutes.
During the 15 minutes, what you want? What's your call to action?
Oh, okay. Okay, I understand what you're saying now.
See, I'll ask the question in a way it makes better sense.
Okay, so it would be for them to have that connection of understanding that there are options outside of just themselves to create a pathway of understanding that will bring them more clients, and also that they're not on the road alone.
See, that's what you hope they'll get from hearing you speak, right?
Yes.
What do you want them to do after they've heard all that?
I want them to I don't know, call me and ask me for
Sure.
call me and ask me for a sit down, a one-on-one, or a reconnect with me for a potential coaching opportunity.
Okay, that's what's in it for you, the coaching opportunity.
For them,
yeah,
to decide on an action that will bring them value from what I discussed.
well, you're getting closer. We're still not there yet.
Well,
I'm thinking that
lift the veil.
What?
Lift the veil.
Well, I'm thinking if you had some concrete form of action, if you're allowed to do this with the group, right? It was you could say you have you invite them to.
So you plan an action that you give them.
Yeah.
You invite them to take a specific action.
Yeah.
But isn't that me telling them what they should do rather than helping them to come to that understanding? Wouldn't you do more of framing it around the results you would hope that they would gain, and ask them to come up with the method that they want to get there?
You want to make it really crystal clear. Like in your talk, what you're going to be talking about, we didn't really talk about that specific talk. But if just using this as an example, what we've gone through, you've identified who your ideal audience is. You've identified what the challenges are. You've gone down a little bit deeper to find out and identify what the real challenges are. And you've also identified how you came to know this to be true. You're going to share that in the talk. And what did you do to overcome this? And we still haven't got clarity. I just realized this. We don't have clarity as to why you want to do all this, right? So let's go back a bit and think about all of those things we've just talked about, those 5 questions you've answered, and you've had your personal gain in your own health, and you're reaching out to this community because it spoke to you. You became emotionally charged at the beginning of this call. So why do you want to be in front of these people to share the message of what you've experienced?
2 reasons. One is to be able to increase the recognition in the community that this is a pathway of health. And the other is for the business owner themselves to help them gain the perspective of how to reach more people to get their message and help others. Because my core value is to make a difference, to leave a mark. So I had a life-changing experience. I know, because of things my husband went through, that there's there are so many people in the world that are experiencing pain, and pain just takes over your life. It robs you of so much living. And even mind health, pain takes away your mind health, not just your physical health, but your mind. It attacks you on so many levels. And so I believe that holistic medicine is a pathway that is being overlooked. And so from the aspect of education to the community, that this is a pathway that they are overlooking, and then to the providers, that to help them make the connection to the public.
Okay, we're getting there.
Okay.
Do you feel that's emotionally charged, or it's still logically sound?
I think it's emotionally charged.
Okay. I know when you like go back to earlier on in this call, and you had, how did you describe it? You had tingles.
Yes.
Right? Do you get tingles as you're speaking right now? Not now, but just did.
Just a moment ago, I got and this is going to sound really weird, but because it's hard to describe it, I got an ethereal feeling, which is how you would describe hope.
Okay. Because as you were describing it to me, I thought you were getting really close to the core emotional reason why the hell you want to do this. And to me, it ties back to your jaw incident and how painful that was, and how elated you were instantaneously. Although the pain was not mitigated totally, you could see and feel a difference. It was almost mind-blowing, amazingly, compared to previous experiences, right? So the why would be something in and around helping these people who are making a difference, but not able to make as big a difference and help as many people stop spending money, time, and energy in an area where it's not being supported, or it doesn't fix the issue.
Right. Well, it's like they're walking in a cloud, a smoky haze, like there's a fire. So the pain is the fire. They're trying to find their way out of the pain. And they have this path that they can't see because of, and that's the visual I have, is that they're wandering around in pain and misery, and there is a path that can provide them with an unknown release of that. That's what holistic medicine is to me.
Okay. So I think we're getting closer. I think it would be to your advantage or benefit to write it out and get it to its emotion, grab that emotion, so that it's real crystal clear to your audience why you do what you do. You just so happen to be a focal point business coach. That's just how you got there, but why you do what you do is because of, tie it back to your stories that you've shared with me, your first-hand ones, and the secondary ones because of your husband's situation, and you've lived through that, and some other people that you know, and some of the treatments and pathways that you've gone. And the action item at the end would be to do something that would invite them to connect with you further. Don't have to buy anything yet. So thinking about this group you're talking to, you're going to invite them. You have room for 5 people this next couple of weeks, where you would, don't say love to, because that's all about you. You want to have some call to action that engages them to want to be with you, to learn more about what it is you talked about from the platform. And it's not about you signing them up as a coach, I don't think, at this point. It's like taking them to the 20-minute coaching call that you were familiar with.
Okay.
Because this relationship is about courting. It's finding somebody who's attracted to you and then nurturing that relationship so they trust you, that they want to work with you. And that could happen rapidly, depending how impactful you are from the state. But it is a journey, right? Like in an intimate love relationship, there's steps we have to get to build the trust and the emotional connection with that individual. It's really similar in the process of finding and helping clients. Don't you think?
Yes.
If we go too soon and ask for or provide our offer without engaging with them and pulling them in because they want to, then we're just going to push. We're going to be that sleazy salesperson that people don't want to work with.
Yeah.
I think I've wrapped it up. Other than I'm going to have a call to action for you, and that is to go over what we've talked about, refine it even more so, and maybe use next week's real live speaking gig as an opportunity to develop this for.
Okay.
Does that sound like makes sense next step for you?
Yes.
And if at all possible, this is as an aside, if you get somebody to record you presenting just on an iPhone, for a bunch of reasons. One is you can use it in your marketing. Two, you can look at how you did. You can look at what you liked. You can see where there's room things that you might not want to do or things that you might like to add the next time. And it's not to beat yourself up. It's only to help you help yourself. And the most important part of that would be, if at all possible, is if you can't get the person really close to record you with the phone, if they're within reasonable distance, not an issue. But the sound part is more important than the audio or the video side of it. Although it would be nice to see the video. But poor video is not as a big issue as poor audio. That's pretty much all I've got. So yeah, that's pretty much your core message clarity session for today. Tell me your thoughts about it, if you would.
Well, I thought it was good. It was good for me. It was a growth opportunity, which I appreciate very much. It helped me to further focus, because I think I was almost there before the call. Now I am even more laser focused on my ideal client. I appreciate that. That's always a help. Made me think about my potential. Gave me some avenues of growth that I can explore, opportunities for adding to my coaching, and possibilities for marketing as well as speaking. So it made my mind bigger.
Cool. Hopefully you got more laser focused as well.
Yes, it did.
So action items that I wrote here was to write and/or talk your speech. And the other thing that you mentioned earlier in this call was creation of a list. So now that you've narrowed it down to ideal audience, and the reason for the list is to ask them and you're asking, you're actually confirming or denying or unconfirming, is that the right way to say that, your hypothesis. You believe that there's this pain point issue in the marketplace, and you're probably right. This just gives you a way to have that conversation with these practitioners without being salesy. And it's gathering education-based stuff. And just like the chiropractor I was telling you about in California, you could be doing the same thing. Only instead of knocking on residential doors because you're looking for patients, you're metaphorically knocking on bricks and mortar offices and finding out what their challenges are, issues are, and if they could overcome that, what would it mean to them, kind of things. And if they ask you why, you say, well, I'm doing information interviewing to provide me, to validate my hypothesis. I believe that there's a need to help, and share what your message is. I believe there's a need to help your holistic approach to healthcare as a viable option over typical MD medicine. Those are my words, obviously. You need to put them, you don't need to do anything, Marsha. I said need, I apologize. It would probably make sense, though, to put them in your Texas words, not my Canadian words.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And when do you think you would like to have that done by?
The list?
Yeah.
I think by next Friday.
Okay, so one of the things in list building is to keep in mind is people think they need to have the whole list before they can start the process. And what I would encourage you to do is say, okay, I want to make so many connections or have so many interviews per week. So I need a list of.
Okay.
So you fill in the variables. So if you look hypothetically, say you want to have 50 conversations, information interviews with your ideal target audience, and you'd like to do those every 50 a week, and knowing what your schedule is like, and on average it probably takes, I don't know, well, maybe the first call is to set up a time to have the call, right? It's not to jump into it right away, because then it's like doing what you've been exposed to or taught through Focal Point. You've got the discovery call, then you've got the 20-minute coaching call, and then you've got the, right? So I would follow that process so you're not learning anything differently. It's just in the 20-minute coaching call, you're validating your hypothesis.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking. And then if they're engaged and want to go to the next stage, you could invite them to the next stage. And the next stage could be an SPR in our world, or it could be they're not ready for that yet. So it could just be invite them to be on your newsletter. You do have the newsletter, right?
Yes.
Right. So you could just and give that as a gift.
Okay.
Cool. So when are we talking again?
I have to schedule those, but I think next Tuesday, if you've got an opening, I'll look on your calendar.
Okay.
And check.
I think I probably do. And then we can just touch base on what we talked about here and carry on with the rest of the stuff we've been working on anyway.
Okay.
Awesome. I'm going to stop the recording now.